It's time for the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. Stay tuned as we discuss local and national sports from Southeast Missouri and beyond. The Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle is brought to you by Royal Retros. If you like cool throwback jerseys of defunct sports teams, Royal Retros is the place to buy. If you go to royalretros.com and you order with the code SPORTSDESK, all one word, you can get a little bit off your order. So check out Royal Retros. And now on with the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And very upset Kyle Roberts over here.
First of all, guys, Happy New Year's. We are taping this on Wednesday, but we are airing on Thursday morning, riding into 2026 after an up and down and hairy and whatever 2025. But we have got a very full show today. We are going to be recapping holiday basketball tournaments, although we are taping before the finals of the Poplar Bluff Showdown, so we're going to only be going through the semifinals on that one. We are also doing a year-in review segment where we're going to talk about some highlights of the past year, and we're also going to have some of our more memorable clips from our shows earlier this year. And, of course, on the back end, we're going to talk about the National Football League. But right now, we are going to dive into looking back at holiday basketball tournaments. Mark was at Bloomfield and got to see the Puxico Indians make a little history last night.
Yeah, back-to-back championships for Puxico. They took on the Van Buren Bulldogs, who really shocked the tournament by upsetting Dexter in the semifinals on Monday night. Van Buren plays a very aggressive style of basketball, and They really came out and took Dexter by surprise. They were kind of came out punching, and Dexter never really recovered. Got close a few times, but Van Buren won that game and moved on to take on Puxico. And Puxico ran right past Twin Rivers without too much difficulty. So that set up all of the finals for last night. So we'll start out with the consolation final. That was the 4 o'clock game between Donovan and Kennett, and the Doms emerged victorious and claimed the 7th place. I don't want to say trophy or award. I mean, it's a plaque. They claimed 7th place in the Boot Hill Christmas Tournament, and good for Donovan, because they came out in the first round and got beat pretty badly by the Bernie Mules, and then they had to win out the rest of their games, and they did. So they ended up in 7th place. The 5th place game was between Malden and the aforementioned Bernie Mules. Wait a minute, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And Bernie won that game going away, really. The 3rd place game was between Dexter and Twin Rivers. Again, Twin Rivers was a big surprise in this tournament, having upset Bernie in the first round. They could not get past the Bearcats, though. It was close to start, but the Bearcats pulled away, and you could tell that they were really determined. You could tell that they really would have preferred to have been playing for the title, but they made the best of their opportunity and won 3rd place. Puxico against Van Buren, that was a real low-scoring game in the first half. But in the second half, Puxico's leading scorers finally found their touch, especially from long range. Van Buren plays a real stifling zone defense. There were not a lot of opportunities in the paint for the Indians to score, but once Landon Burchard, Jed Hancock, and some of their other long-range scores started hitting through. There was a spot in there where Burchard hit like 3 consecutive three-pointers. Forgive me, it's still early and I'm still on my first cup of coffee. But Landon Burchard hit 3 three-pointers in a row, and the last one that he sent was from NBA range. I mean, it was just, it was a bomb. It was like one of those old passes to Randy Moss that just like went up in the rafters of the Metrodome. Just a high arcing shot and just plopped right through the net. And boy, the crowds yesterday were just incredible. Pretty even matchup in that small Bloomfield gym between the Puxico supporters, the Van Buren. And when I was down on courtside taking photos, whenever anything would happen, either a defensive play or especially a shot, the noise was simply deafening. So kudos to the staff at Bloomfield for putting on another really memorable tournament. Congratulations to the Puxico Indians, back-to-back champions of the BCT, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing what next year brings us.
Indeed, and I want to focus real quick on the Southeast Missourian Christmas Tournament. Jackson won that tournament, winning a pretty hard-fought battle with Woodland. Pretty nice matchup. Jackson was the number 1 seed coming in, Woodland was number 2. That game lived up to it. That was a pretty outstanding tournament. There were some teams that surprised a little bit in that tournament. Chaffee surprised, made a pretty good run deep into the tournament. I think in the consolation bracket. I think Leopold ended up making a pretty nice consolation run. A lot of interesting things came out of that tournament. One thing that stood out about that tournament is that Charleston and Cape Central did not make it to the final day of the tournament for the first time in many, many years. So it bodes interesting for the second half of the season. Woodland looks like they're going to be a force in Southeast Missouri. Jackson, as usual, looks like they're going to be a force in the area. It's going to be an interesting second half.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good competitive basketball, and we're just talking about the men's side. We haven't even talked about the defending state champion Donovan Donettes, who swept through the Lady Royals Christmas Tournament and currently sit at 10-0. So, there's a lot of good basketball all over.
Indeed, and speaking of good basketball, on Tuesday night I was at the Poplar Bluff Showdown, covered the semifinals. The Poplar Bluff Mules played First Assembly Christian School out of Cordova, Tennessee, which is suburban Memphis. That was an interesting game, for about, I would say, not quite 3 quarters. The Mules looked really great. They had a 14-point lead with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. And then First Assembly Christian started bombing three-pointers. They hit 8 three-pointers in the last 10 minutes of that game, rallied from a 14-point deficit and pulled out the 67-60 win. They are playing Memphis Central. They played Memphis Central for the championship of the Showdown. Poplar Bluff ended up playing Link Academy for third. And, of course, this happened after we taped the podcast, so we can talk more about how that turned out on the next show. But, Poplar Bluff Showdown is always a really good tournament. I think it's a little bit unheralded because you don't have a lot of area teams in it. But there's a lot of good teams in it that come from all over the country. There's been a lot of memorable players that have been in that tournament over the years. Anthony Peeler played in it the first year we had it. William Avery, that was a Duke star, played in it. Devin Booker, who's an all-NBA player for the Phoenix Suns, he played in it in 2012. There's been some pro football players that played in it as high school kids. R.W. McQuarters, Coney Ely, Jamal Anderson, that played defensive line for the Atlanta Falcons. That's a really good tournament, and it's a tournament that if you get a chance to go to it, don't pass it up. Bloomfield's a great tournament. Southeast Missourian Christmas Tournament's a great tournament. But the Poplar Bluff Showdown isn't bad either, so I recommend if you get a chance to check out all 3, jump to it.
Yeah, and they're just different flavors. They're just different flavors of tournaments. Bloomfield has the smaller schools, the class 2, class 3, class 4, and you get those really inter-county rivalries, especially the Stoddard County teams. They all know each other, and most of the kids on the teams know each other too.
That's right.
You can see that in between the whistles. Where they're. I remember last night there was like this one moment where they were in a timeout, and Puxico's Landon Bertrand was talking with. They were just hanging out on the court, just chatting with each other, waiting for the action to resume. And I want to say and the Poplar Bluff Showdown, completely different kind of tournament because you get teams from Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas. You get to see some other schools, and Poplar Bluff gets a chance to match up against really a different kind of talent than they see here in Southeast Missouri. So So yeah, all of these tournaments give you kind of a different thing to take in. But the one thing that I want to say about high school basketball is just the importance of the three-point shot. I mean, it really is transformative in these matchups. One of the reasons that Puxico had such a slow start yesterday and why there wasn't a whole lot of scoring in the first half was that they were cold from beyond the arc. You know, they were putting up threes and they just weren't falling. Most of them were clanging off the front of the rim, so they just hadn't found their range yet. And then the second half, once they started hitting those threes, it just put so much space between them and Van Buren that that the Bulldogs really didn't have a chance to come back. They hit a couple of threes of their own here and there, but they really don't have the consistent sort of three-point shooters that you see out of Puxico. So, kids, if you want to participate in varsity basketball, you don't have to be 6'4". You just have to hit that three-pointer. You could be 5'6". You could be Spud Webb, although Spud could dunk. You could be Spud Webb out there bombing threes, and you'll get a chance to play.
Indeed, and one thing I also want to touch on real quick is the Raiders and Lady Raiders are getting ready to start back up playing ball again after a little bit of a break. The Lady Raiders are making the trip Saturday to Mount Carmel, Illinois to take on Wabash Valley in a rematch from opening weekend. And the men and women both are playing at home on Wednesday night against the Moberly Greyhounds in the Region 16 opener for both teams. That's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to seeing both of the Raiders teams get back to action. We've been saying all along through the fall that January is when the Region 16 matchups start in earnest, and it's not going to be long until we get the drive towards those regional championships and then a trip to the national championship. So that's going to be coming at us really fast. And so, preseason is over. It's not really preseason is why I call it, those non-conference, if you will, matchups. But now this is where the real league play starts, and this is where you start fine-tuning your team for the postseason.
Indeed, and it's going to be a fun ride. And when we come back, we are going to look back at some of the more interesting teams and or stories of 2025 here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers College women's basketball coach Alex Wiggs, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. We are going to look back at some of the more memorable teams and or moments of 2025, and I'm going to lead off, I think, with what has been the biggest story in our media area and maybe all of Southeast Missouri from last year. The Donovan Donettes winning the state championship, the first in school history for Donovan. And, and they look pretty dadburn good doing it.
Yeah, it was a remarkable run for the Donettes. Of course, their championship season came on the heels of their previous season, which was undefeated, another unprecedented event. They went through the entire regular season without a loss, but then, unfortunately for them, they dropped their next game, first game in the playoffs to Notre Dame out of Cape Girardeau. So did not get as far in the playoffs as they wanted to. But then last season, they didn't worry about the undefeated regular season. They lost, I can't remember, 1 or 2 games in that run up to the playoffs. But then the playoffs were just a remarkable run. They were fortunate enough to gain a draw where they played right up into the Final Four at home, so they did not have to go on the road. Their final game that they won to send them up to Columbia in the Final Four was there in Donovan, and all of these games were really close. Those young ladies were battle-tested, and give credit to the leadership of their 2 seniors, Maddie Reedus and Sarah Owen, and then the Class 4 Player of the Year in Carson Haygood. Just a remarkable run, and I got to be there for the celebration after they came back, and the trophies and the medals and all of the girls getting to talk about their experience of it. Really, there have been so many players and so many schools that just go through the entire experience and never even get close to reaching the top of that mountain. So to see them do it in Donovan, and I would be remiss without giving credit to Adam Epps, their head coach, who just, he just has those girls so centered and so focused. They never panic. They always play together as a team. It is definitely a family atmosphere there in Donovan, and we were remarking off air beforehand. They're already 10-0 this season, and they look like a juggernaut again. They look like they're going to make another run for the top this year. So one of those things is going to be fun and exciting to watch as we move into 2026.
Indeed. And, another team that stood out from this, from 2025, got to give a shout out to the Puxico Indians. They made it to the Final Four of the state tournament for the first time in over 7 years, for the first time since the legendary Arnold Ryan teams in the 1950s, and they're doing it again this regular season. But looking back, at the season before in March, they made that run to state, and they looked pretty good doing it.
Yeah, and one of the things that Indians fans have to look forward to this year is that they still have their two top players from last year's team in Landon Burchard and Jet Hancock. So, I think there is a really good chance that similar to what the Donettes experienced with, having an exceptional year and then following it up the next season with the championship, I think now that they have that playoff experience, that Final Four experience, that I think there's a real good chance that they could get all the way to the top this season.
It's going to be interesting to watch. They've definitely had some moments this year. They did have the one loss at Sykeston, but, that Sykeston team is a good team. It's a Class 5 team, while Puxico's just Class 2. Puxico repeating at Bloomfield is a really good sign. That's going to be an interesting district. Charleston's in that district. I'd have to double-check. Chaffee may be in that district, and they could be a very dangerous team as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Two other teams that stood out. I want to talk about the Three Rivers College Raiders and Lady Raiders basketball teams that both, made it to the national tournament. Only the second time in school history they've both made it in the same year, and the first time in 30 years since they have done it. And, I'll lead off by, talking about the Lady Raiders. They made history. That was Alex Wiggs' 5th straight trip to the national tournament. That is a school record. He passed the legendary Gene Bess in doing that. And it's, they looked really, like I said, they looked really good doing it. They looked really dominant. Mark, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on the Lady Raiders is that they need to draw a bracket that doesn't include Northwest Florida?
That's right.
Northwest Florida State before we get to the championship game. If we could get on the other side of the bracket to that team, because they have been the Patriots to our Peyton Manning Colts the past couple of seasons. That team has eliminated us from the playoffs in consecutive years. So it would really be nice to see the Lady Raiders peak as they go into the regional tournament and then hopefully the national tournament. We had a bit of a letdown last season, an upset loss in the Region 16 championship, and although I don't think that really hurt their performance any at the Nationals, you definitely want to be playing at your peak. So hopefully that's something that we'll see from the Lady Raiders. And moving to the men's team, what was notable last season was that first-year coach Robert Kirby was able to take the team back to nationals, a stunning upset win over Trojans. Where were they from?
Triton.
Yeah, Triton Trojans in the Region 16 championship there at the Libla Center, punching their ticket to the finals. A really sort of an unexpected trip, but one that was worthy nonetheless. And just going on regular season record, it definitely looks as if they're working on all cylinders. I think one of the things that has benefited the team is that they haven't suffered as many injuries as they were dealing with last season. I think that makes a difference, and also being the second year in Coach Kirby's program has made a big difference also.
It is. One of the things that really stood out about that 2024-25 team, that was not only the first time in 8 seasons the men had won a region title, it was the first time in 13 seasons they had made it back to the national tournament. That was really big because, coming into this season, the program had really struggled. They had, finished under 500 5 of the last 7 years. The fan base had gotten very hungry to see the kind of success that we ended up having. And it's, the Robert Kirby era is off to a really good start so far. Excited to see what happens. And, Kyle just, messaged us, and he's got a couple of Southwest Missouri teams that he got to see a lot of that he wants to talk about. We don't get to talk a lot about that part of the state, but that's his home area, and there's some pretty dad-burn good football out there. And Kyle, tell us about what you got for us.
Well, we got to give a big congratulations and pat on the back to our big rival, the Carthage Tigers, making it to the state championship game, where they did fall short, but it was in a game that was actually highlighted by NBC on a Sunday night game with the Kansas City Chiefs, but they fell in overtime to Platte County and had a phenomenal run. I live in Webb City, but I work in Carthage, and I have a buddy who teaches and coaches football over there, and the entire town was so proud of those boys this year. So I want to give a big congratulations, representing our area and our conference very well, and also to the Nixa Eagles, who going in were 13-0, but they fell short in their state championship game as well, losing 41-37 to Lee Summit. And another big congratulations to offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell of Nixa. Of course, I've spoken about him previously on the show throughout the year. This kid is a man-child. He's the number 1 ranked high school recruit for 2026, and he's going to play for Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. He is the first offensive lineman to be named Gatorade National Player of the Year.
Wow.
That is one phenomenal achievement. That's basically the equivalent of winning the Heisman Trophy as an offensive lineman. So definitely wanted to put some shine on a couple of our local high schools that did big things this year, and definitely not wanting to leave the 4 states out in the weeds here on the show. So congrats to Carthage and Nixa for great years, and looking forward to seeing what they bring next year. And hopefully Webb City can get back on the horse too and get back to a championship standard.
Indeed, like I said earlier, there's some good football out in that area. It's pretty legit out there. Webb City, which is your area, that they have been a state power for many years. I remember they were winning and competing for state titles when I was in high school back in the 1980s even. So that's how far back their dominance goes. Carthage is the team that's really risen up the last few years, and Jackson Cantwell at Nixa, like I said, like I told you, my friend Brooke Wormington, her daughter cheers at Jackson, and I was telling Brookie, before Jackson's semifinal, which they lost, I told her, if you guys make it to state, you're probably going to be going up against this Jackson Cantwell guy, and he's good enough. He's probably going to be playing on Sundays one day.
He is 6'8", 310 pounds, and a state champion in shot put as well. So
wow.
This is a man-child, and he's going to go play for the Miami Hurricanes, who are in the college football playoff, I might add, right, as of this recording.
Yeah, what's really frightening about his physical stats, 6'8", 310. I mean, he's probably about 18, maybe 19 years old.
If even that.
Yeah, maybe even younger. If he's 17, this is it. He hasn't topped out in terms of weight. I mean, he's gonna get to Miami, and they're going to have a top flight nutrition and weight training program. He's likely to put on 25 to 30 pounds of muscle by the time he's eligible for the draft. He might be 6'8". He might even grow another inch to 6'9", but he's going to be tipping the scales probably around the 330 area. And I mean, if his performance on the field matches up with his potential and his physical statistics, I mean, you're looking at an overall number 1 draft pick. You're looking at a 10-year impact player along the lines of Orlando Pace. That is his potential.
I was actually about to say Jonathan Ogden also.
There you go.
Either one.
Ogden was 6'9", which is just ungodly for an offensive lineman. But yeah, we've got some very, very legitimate offensive or football talent out in this area. And also you guys with Jackson, one of their offensive linemen signed an LOI to play for Mizzou.
That's right.
MIZ.
ZOU. Yeah, that his name is Wessel, and he's a good one. And guys, on that note, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to be, replaying some of our more memorable clips from this year on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. 2025 was a memorable year here on the show, and we would like to share with you some memorable moments and excerpts from last year. We start back in June when we got to visit with Gulf Coast State College men's basketball coach Lane Ballou on what is still our most viewed episode ever. Lane talked about his roots growing up in Advance and his time playing basketball for the Hornets, and he also talked about how his 2 years playing for Three Rivers College and legendary coach Gene Bess molded him into who he is now.
It was awesome, man. I mean, I really wanted to go down there. Even as a kid, I was 5th, 6th grade going to camps all the time at Three Rivers. Loved being around it, loved going to the games. Was just always super impressed with how they did things, even as a young guy. And so I wanted to go there, and fortunately I got an opportunity there, and I learned a lot while I was there. I actually, got to take a basketball coaching techniques class with Coach Gene and learned a lot there. I still have my book that we had to do kind of a binder book, basically all drill work and just breaking down our philosophy and all facets of basketball and our coaching style. And so that was cool. And just, looking back on it now, you maybe didn't even appreciate it as much then as you do now. But a lot of things that I learned there I'm still using today. And definitely very appreciative that Coach Gene gave me an opportunity, and just getting to learn from him was really cool.
We kicked off August with a special appearance by area high school baseball standout Brady Smith, who not only announced on the show that he was going to play college baseball at Wichita State starting in the fall of 2026, but that he also was making a big move before his senior season as well.
Well, I guess I'm going to drop the news on here too. I will be an East Carter Redbird for my senior year.
Oh, wow. That's big news. Tell me about that.
So, originally, it's my dad's alma mater.
That's right.
That's where he went to school at, and they are a 4-day school week, and a lot of my younger brother's friends are over there, and he kind of wanted to change it and go be with a lot of his friends for his high school career, and my mother took a job over there, and I just wanted to follow them and be with my family and go compete over there.
A few weeks later, Mark and Kyle made a very big prediction about the Kansas City Chiefs here on the show. The Chiefs were fresh off a loss in their season opener to the Los Angeles Chargers, but Mark and Kyle both saw signs of bigger trouble before a lot of other people did.
Speaking of no hope, the Eagles travel to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch.
You're burying them already.
Oh, I am, absolutely. Yes. And that is my number one overreaction to week one. The Chiefs aren't making the playoffs, and they're not going to beat the visiting Eagles either,
So
even if they are playing at
my
home.
hot take.
That was like the first thing that I said Friday night. It was like overreaction number one. The Chiefs aren't making the playoffs.
Not against the schedule, and not against all the weaknesses that they're having to face. And now no Xavier Worthy.
Then we kicked off October with a special episode devoted to cancer awareness. Some people may just see October as a month to wear pink, but for some people it has a much deeper meaning. One of them is Advanced senior volleyballer Kendall Hitt.
When I was younger, my dad passed away from brain cancer. He battled it for a couple years. So I've kind of taken that as growing up, I wanted to play for him. He never really got to watch me play volleyball, So it means a lot to me to play for him in honor, respect, especially since he didn't get to watch me play, and show the love and care. And I know how much he supports me from above, so that also helps me a lot too.
Our interview with Kendall then led to me and Mark sharing our own experiences with cancer in what I think is one of the more poignant moments in the history of our show. Guys, a bit of trivia. One reason that Breast Cancer Awareness Month, pink outs, and things like that mean so much to me is I'm a cancer survivor myself. Back many years ago, I had a really wonky growth on my back, procrastinating getting it looked at. And finally, when I was living in Wyoming in 2018, I went to the clinic to have it looked at, and turns out it was indeed melanoma. Very, very intense experience. Kyle, I think you remember I called you that day. I was driving to Billings because I took the rest of the day off from work when I found out. I mean, I was in tears when I called you because, I mean, it was a cancer diagnosis, dude. I don't know if you remember that one or not, but
No, I do, and it was really, eye-opening for myself, and it's just another reminder. Men, get yourself checked at all costs, and don't wait too long. And I'll say this: I'm super, super thankful that you're still here with us today, man. Truly.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I also I had a potential cancer scare several years ago where after a kidney stone attack, they did a CT scan and they found a spot on my right kidney. I saw a urologist, and he said, "Yeah, I'm 80% sure that's kidney cancer." And they planned to have surgery to have it removed. Good news was that the pathology after the surgery did show that it wasn't a cancerous tumor. It was a benign tumor, but I still lost a third of my right kidney as a result of that. But yeah, when you're sitting in a doctor's office and a doctor looks at you and says, "We think you have cancer," whether that turns out to be true or not, it is one of those, life flashing before your eyes sort of moments. And something else that I want to say, if you can't do the math from the fact that I graduated in 1986, I'm 57 years old, and I do have a history of colon cancer in my family through my maternal grandfather. So I had my first and to date only colonoscopy last year, and I can tell you folks, the colonoscopy itself is really nothing at all. You're asleep for the whole thing. It's the terrible prep for the 2 days leading up to it that is really the challenge. But whether you're male or female, but especially if you're a guy, if you're above 50 years old, if you haven't had that colonoscopy check, do so, because colon cancer is no joke. Just like breast cancer, early detection is the best form of prevention.
Wow. This has definitely been a year to remember, and we are looking forward to an exciting 2026 here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Mike Bueller, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle, and it is time for our weekly dive into the National Football League. I'm going to start off with my Tennessee Titans. We had a good run. I mean, we led most of that game, but we just couldn't hold it together at the end and lost 34-26 to the New Orleans Saints. And typical with rebuilding teams, you don't measure success by wins and losses. You measure it by, your young guys developing. And I got to give a shout out to Cam Ward. In his last 8 games, coming into this weekend, Cam Ward has thrown 10 touchdowns and only 1 interception. He's starting to look really good. He's definitely maturing. He's making better decisions, and it bodes really well for the future of this team.
Yeah, I would agree. You can't really judge a rookie quarterback's first season on performance. You're not really looking for performance. You're just looking for development. I mean, by the end of the season, he needs to look like he's not picking his nose out there and just completely confused. And The kid's got a lot of moxie. Obviously, he has physical skills. He's got a big arm. Now they just need to build a roster around him. I think you're going to see him take the same kind of step forward that we've seen this year from a quarterback like Drake May. I don't think that Ward is necessarily going to be playing at a potential MVP level the way we've seen from May, but I think you're going to see that same step up. I think he's going to he's going to level up to the point where it's like, hey, this guy's a really good quarterback, and you guys are fortunate. Speaking as a Vikings fan, it's like, I wish that we could see the same thing in McCarthy. It's possible that he could take that step up in his second season, but obviously injuries have been a problem. There's still some questions about, who is the real J.J. McCarthy? Is it the guy, who can't stop picking his nose, or is it the guy, who's slinging 3 touchdowns and leading his team to, improbable wins on the road? And it's really imperative for the Vikings that they get their quarterback situation straightened out, because they have a championship level defense out there, and it'd be a shame to waste these guys when they're just, think about this. Max Brosmer in his start for the Vikings had net passing yards of 3. He took like 7 sacks against the Detroit defense, and the Vikings still won that game 23-10 on the strength of their defense. It was a virtuoso performance by the guys on the defensive side of the ball. And, man, if we could just get our offense to match our defense, we'll be back in the playoff hunt again.
Indeed, and I got a couple thoughts on that real quick in just a minute, but I will say about Ward, looking ahead to the game this weekend, they are going to Jacksonville and playing the Jaguars, and that is a game that has playoff implications. Obviously not for the Titans, but for the Jaguars, who need a win or a Houston loss to secure the division title. But on top of that, the Jaguars still have an outside shot at home field advantage throughout the playoffs, so they are not going to be resting starters against the Titans. That makes the Titans clear underdogs. That could bode well for our draft position, because if we lose, we're guaranteed a top 5 pick. If we lose and we get some help, we could move up to the number 2 pick in the draft, which we could use to take a star player or to trade down and get more picks to a quarterback-needy team like one of the teams we are tied with, the New York Jets.
It would make perfect sense just to tank this game and go for the high draft pick. But it's a divisional game, and you have a chance to be a spoiler, and these are professional football players. These are men who've been trained since grade school to always give their best and always try to win. So it's very difficult to tell these men in that mindset. It's like, hey, guys, go out there and just give 50% and make sure that we lose this game. So I think it's going to be competitive. I do think Jacksonville is going to win this game. I think that Trevor Lawrence is really living up to his potential, not only with the way he's playing, but the way that he's leading this team. Liam Cohen has done a great job. It's just unfortunate that he has to be Coach of the Year candidate in the same year where Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel brought 2 franchises literally back from the dead. So you've got that game, and then you've got Indy, what's left of them, going in to play Houston. I'm going to pick Houston to win this game. They're already going to the playoffs. They definitely would rather host a playoff game as the division winner, and give credit to the Houston franchise. They started out the season 0-3.
They looked like garbage.
Yeah, it just looked like it was going to be a disaster season, and here they sit at 11-5, and 1 win and a Jacksonville loss from actually claiming the AFC South. So it just goes to show you got to go out and play every week, because you never know what might happen. And unfortunately, Kyle's been on the bad end of never knowing what might happen, as the Los Angeles Rams went into Atlanta and coughed up what should have been, at least on paper, an easy win for them. Kyle indicated at the beginning of the show that he's still smarting from that loss, so we're going to give him a little bit of therapy time here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does anyone know what a catch is? Anyone know what a catch is?
No, nobody knows what a catch is.
Dear National Football League, do you know what a catch is? Because I'm starting now to make a dated reference, Mark, that I know you'll get. I feel my inner Julius Sugarbaker about to come out of me because I'm about to get real hot.
Oh my gosh!
Protect the ball. We're one of the best teams in the NFL at ball security, especially through the air when you consider how much we throw the ball. John Matthew Stafford had an elderly early bird 4:30 for dinner moment, throwing a pick six to Jesse Bates. Lovely player, great player. I don't like him this week. And another near pick six to Xavier Watts. Hell of a player. Don't like him this week. We couldn't finish drives. Shout out to Bijan Robinson. Mustard put the gas on us, and he had our players out there doing the Lord's Prayer trying to tackle him, especially on that 93-yard touchdown run. That he is a top 5 running back in the NFL, but the fact is we lost to Kirk Cousins in 2025. Also, Puka caught that ball. Listen, I do not like the rule on what a catch is, where you have to secure all the way through the progress or the process of catching the ball. He was going out of bounds. Both feet were in bounds. This is stupid.
Yeah.
That was a catch.
Yeah.
That was egregious. Now, I will say this. We should not have put ourselves in that situation. And on a counterpoint, I fully believe that Atlanta is the most talented team in the NFC South. If it not for early kicking woes this season, they'd easily be a 10-11 win team right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, has there been a team that has underachieved more than the Atlanta squad has this year? Even with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, you've still got, one of the top 3 running backs in the league in your backfield. It's
yes.
Like even with Cousins, even with Penix out with injury, Cousins is good enough to win you at least a few games. They should be sitting at 10-6 right now.
Yeah.
But this is the life of being a Falcons fan. I want to give a big shout out to my boss, Chris, who always says they are the most dangerous team in NFL history when games don't matter. And tell me and to borrow a quote from one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, tell me when I'm telling lies when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons. They have all the pieces, all the potential in the world to step up and be something more than they are. But of course, they would beat us and the Buffalo Bills and lose to the New York Jets all in the same season. Of course the Atlanta Falcons would. And of course they beat us. More or less we beat ourselves. And if the season ends right now, we got to go to Philly again.
Right. Well, I think that's an advantage for you because Philly is a shell of what they were before. And I want to talk about that game from last week.
One thing I got to say, though, getting back to what Kyle said, to borrow a Julius Sugarbaker reference about that game Monday night, that was the night
better not.
For the Rams. That was the night the lights went out in Georgia.
I should have said it my dang self because it was right there. Also, I was born in Georgia. Good Lord.
So getting back to the Eagles and the Bills from last week, one of my grandsons, Cameron, shout out to Cameron, he's 9 years old and he's taken a real interest in football. So Sunday afternoons are fun because Grandpa gets to sit down in the basement and watch football. By the way, I did not raise any of my kids to be sports fans at all. I did not want to pass on the misery of being a Vikings fan or any other kind of sports fan to any of the rest of my kids. But my grandkids are not my responsibility. So if they want to watch sports with me, I'm going to have them watch sports. Anyway, we're watching the Buffalo Eagles game, and Buffalo, gets the ball on the goal line, and of course they fail 3 times in a row, and they're sitting at 4th down. Now they're losing 13-zip at this point, and of course they leave the offense on the field for 4th down. And it's like what would make you think that you can convert a 4th down on the goal line? Because you guys haven't done diddly squat the whole game. And so I told Cameron, I said, they should kick a field goal here. They should go ahead and take the points, kick the field goal. And if they had just kicked the field goal right then, they wouldn't have had to worry about the missed PAT on the touchdown that they scored a little bit later on in the game. Basically, that last touchdown would have put them ahead had they kicked the field goal. So this trend, and I curse Dan Campbell for this. He's the source of this madness of going for it on fourth down when it's not necessary. Now, I understand that if time is expiring, you're down by 4, 5, 6 points, you have to go for that touchdown. If it's earlier in the game, even if it's early in the fourth quarter, kick the field goal, take the points. Points are always needed at the end of the game, and that was the difference. The difference was they went for a touchdown when they could have had an easy chip shot field goal, and that field goal would have been the difference, and Buffalo would have won that game. So it's these type of egregiously bad coaching decisions. I mean, there was nothing that would have indicated that they were going to be able to penetrate Philadelphia's goal line defense. There's just nothing. And I'll say the same about the 2-point conversion at the end of the game, which you were forced into because you didn't kick that field goal early. You were forced to do that 2-point conversion. And Philly's defense is just too tough when it comes to short yardage. The odds are always against you. So, that goes down to coaching. McDermott is going to have to answer for that, especially if things don't go their way this year in the playoffs. So that's
the kind of stuff that gets coaches fired.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my Julia Sugarbaker rant for the week.
Yep. Looking ahead to this weekend's games, I talked about the Titans and Jags. Your guys, Mark, your guys wrap up against the Packers. That is a mostly meaningless game since the Packers are in the playoffs, but your guys have a chance to close the regular season on a 5-game winning streak and finish with a winning record. And you know what? If you win, you're not going to be last in the division because you will have the tiebreaker on the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I don't think the Lions are going to beat the Bears. I think we're going to win third place outright. And here's the thing. I understand with the Titans, the kind of season that they had, and looking ahead and getting a high draft pick and thinking, boy, I hope we don't win this game. When Vikings were sitting at 4-8, a lot of fans, myself included, were just like, well, let's just tank. Let's just tank this thing. But then J.J. McCarthy comes out and plays great in 2.5 games, and now they're sitting on a 4-game winning streak, turning into a 5-game winning streak. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to quote Ebby Calvin Nuke LaLoosh and say, I love winning. I freaking love winning, It's better than losing.
Yep.
And for me, ending the season, even though the season ends, you don't go to the playoffs, but ending the season on a 5-game winning streak, and especially ending the season beating the Packers, which, they might be playing their third-string quarterback. They probably should because they're locked into that 7th position. They are probably going to be resting everybody. We still don't know, as of recording today, whether J.J. McCarthy is going to play with that fractured bone in his hand. Coach Kevin O'Connell said it's basically pain level and grip strength, that if he can grip the ball sufficiently to throw it without an excessive amount of pain, they want to get him out there for one more game, because we got to know if McCarthy's the guy or not, because there's not a whole lot of time to come up with a plan B for next season, and we have to have something, mainly because McCarthy hasn't shown that he can stay healthy for a 17-game season. I think that's mainly the problem. I think if he had stayed healthy this year and played 17 games, I think he would probably be at or above the level of play that we've seen from Cam Ward in Tennessee. I really do. It's starting to click for McCarthy. I mean, it really is. I'm still optimistic about his chances of being the franchise quarterback. Hopefully his hand will be healed up well enough to prove that Sunday against the Packers. And, yeah, I'm going to pick the Vikings to win that game.
A bit of trivia. Whoever finishes last in the NFC North gets to host the Titans next season. One reason I'm kind of hoping that the Lions are going to finish last is not only because I would love to see the Titans go to Detroit next season, but maybe the Titans and the Lions if the Titans make enough noise, could be the Thanksgiving game, which I would dearly love to see. Kyle, your guys play the Arizona Cardinals this week. That is a mostly meaningless game since I believe you are locked into the 6th seed. But still, I mean, that's still your team. I'll let you go from there.
Oh,
Kyle got disconnected.
He got disconnected, and he's calling us back.
Yes.
All right.
Hold on. Yep.
Thank you, AT&T. Always reliable.
Of course.
Kyle, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Kyle, we were getting your Rams are playing the Cardinals this Sunday. What are your thoughts?
I'm fine. I'm completely fine. We'll handle our business. Get back game. I think we'll play starters for maybe about a half, and then set everybody down. Got somebody like Stetson Bennett some reps, and let him get familiar with the offense. As long as we handle our business, get out of it relatively injury free, I'm cool. Because as you mentioned earlier, if we do happen to play the Eagles on the road, this isn't the same team as last year. Keep in mind, in the postseason for the Eagles on their run to the Super Bowl, we were the only team to play them within single digits in the postseason. They blew everybody else out. This year's team is not last year's team. I feel way more confident if we have to go there again. However, if we have to go play somebody like Chicago, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
So as long as we get through this week, we stay clean, we play clean, and no key players get injured, I'm straight. I'm perfectly fine.
Last season the Rams almost beat a much better Eagles team that went on to dismantle the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The Eagles are a shell of last year's squad, and I think the Rams are better than they were last season, so I wouldn't worry about playing on the road in Philly. Do you guys remember when Michael Strahan was going for the single-season sack record, and he got within arm's distance of Brett Favre, and Favre just folded onto the carpet?
And he took a dive.
Yeah, took a dive. That's what the Las Vegas Raiders are going to do at home this week to the Mahomes-less Kansas City Chiefs. I think whatever records that Travis Kelce has left to set, the Raiders are just going to part like the Red Sea and let him run down the field, and whoever else from the Chiefs wants to play. The order of the day here's how you know the Raiders are losing this game no matter what. They deactivated Max Crosby. They said, "Go home, Max. You're not playing anymore this season."
That's bad, but that tells you that says a whole lot, because number one, they should have traded him already to a contending team and gotten a haul of picks for him.
Yep.
He has no business still wearing the Raiders uniform, but they were this bad with him.
Right. Yeah, I think straight up, even if the Raiders were trying to win this game, that the Chiefs' third-string quarterback, with the weapons that he has, even this is a preseason game, but the Chiefs' preseason squad is better than the Raiders' preseason squad. And there aren't going to be any starters out on the field for the Raiders. I mean, it's like they have one order, and that is lay down and lose. They are not going to give up that number one pick.
Absolutely not. I mean, geez. What did you refer? I'm going to refer to the Raiders as what you referred to the Jets as the other day in the show chat. I think you called them an embarrassment to Americans' professional sports.
Yes. Yeah, I was speaking of the Jets. I said they're an embarrassment to two states, New York and New Jersey. They represent New York. They play in New Jersey. They're an embarrassment to both states, the United States of America, the National Football League, and sports life in general. They are a terrible, terrible franchise. And you know who's right there with them? The Las Vegas Raiders, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cleveland Browns. Just garbage franchises that do not deserve to play in the same league as the top echelon teams.
No, I think the Cleveland Browns wouldn't even win the MAC.
Well, they might win the MAC, but looking ahead to some teams that do have meaningful games and that do belong in the NFL, we have two teams playing for division titles on Saturday. The Carolina Panthers are traveling to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers, and the Seattle Seahawks are taking on the San Francisco 49ers with not only the NFC West on the line, but also the number 1 seed in the NFC. Those are going to be interesting games. I'm going to take Carolina to win in Florida, and I am going to take the Niners to beat the Seahawks.
Tampa's a sinking ship. I'm going with Carolina, and Sam Darnold is going to do Sam Darnold things, and I don't mean that in a good way. San Francisco is going to get to him. You're going to see him go blue screen of death and throw at least 2, if not 3, devastating interceptions. The Niners are going to win the West and make sure that the NFC, the road to the Super Bowl through the NFC goes through Santa Clara, California.
Do you know how disgusting those words you just said are?
I know.
The 49ers are going to win the NFC West.
You know, the Rams should have taken care of business. They had the opportunity, and they shot themselves in the foot.
Sir, I am quite aware of that. Thank you very much. This is supposed to be a soothing experience.
No, your soothing experience was winning the fantasy league. So you don't.
We will get to that, and I will kiss my own behind and clap for myself. Thank you. As I was about to say, I can't believe I just said that out loud.
Go ahead.
Actually, yes, I can. Did you guys know that Bryce Young, since last year, leads the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks?
Good for him. You know, somebody needs to notify everybody in Minneapolis that sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years for a young quarterback to develop into a championship caliber quarterback. Maybe you shouldn't be so quick to discard him after 6 or 7 games in his rookie season.
And Carolina, and let's be honest, early on, he looked terrible.
Oh, much worse. Yes, just as bad, if not worse, than McCarthy.
Yes, however, they stuck with him. And if you go just by raw numbers, Carolina does not wow. What they do is find ways to win, and they don't beat themselves. Bryce Young has not cost this team wins. He has put them in positions to win games. They don't win pretty, and they don't have big names that jump out at you.
Yeah.
But Carolina's got something special brewing there. I got them winning the NFC South, not who we had winning at the start of the year, but also as much as it does pain me, dude, the 49ers, it is infuriating how good of a regular season head coach Kyle Shanahan is. It almost makes me feel bad for their fans, because of what he does to them in the postseason. But if you look at all of the injuries San Francisco's accrued this year, and they still managed to thrive. I mean, they beat us with Mac Jones.
Yeah. You know who Kyle Shanahan is, and I mean this is the highest compliment. He's the Bud Grant of the 21st century.
Ouch! But I know where you're going there. I get the correlation.
You know, absolutely brilliant regular season coach who just underachieves in the playoffs.
Almost sounds like Marty Schottenheimer too, to a point.
Yeah, except Schottenheimer never made it to the Super Bowl, unfortunately. To my great disappointment. I was a fan of Marty. I liked him in Cleveland. I loved him in Kansas City, but he just couldn't. By the way, if you're hearing some residual background noise here, and we're recording in our studio, there's somebody out in the library lobby where we're recording who's talking so loud I can't hear myself think. And I don't know why he's doing this, because it's not like there's anyone else in the library. So, anyway, that's an aside that doesn't matter. Let's take a look at the other important games as far as any playoff
Steelers
things.
and Ravens to end the season on Sunday night.
Yeah, before we do that, I want to look at this final game. Lions going to the Bears. The Bears don't have anything to play for, but do we really think that Ben Johnson is gonna put Caleb Williams on the bench and just let the Lions win this next? Although the Bears are still playing for seeding, are they not?
Yeah, if the Bears need a win or an Eagles loss to lock up the 2 seed and a divisional round home game.
Yeah, I think the Bears definitely have something to play for. And even if they didn't, there's no way that Ben Johnson is going to roll over and not try to beat his old team, the Lions.
And not only that, I've never been a stat chasing guy. Dang it, He's so close to
Yep.
4,000.
Yeah, no Bears quarterback has ever thrown for 4,000 yards in a season, ever.
Or 30 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Get him there. How hard is it to eclipse Eric Kramer?
Who? Oh, my God.
1995, Eric Kramer threw for 3,900 yards and 29 touchdowns. Yes, I know these stats off the top of my head. That is the closest. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Stat pad.
One of the things that's still up for grabs in the AFC is home field advantage, which is going to be a huge deal because both cities are cold weather cities in January. We've got the Chargers going in to play the Broncos, who are sitting at 13-3. I think the Broncos take care of business against the Chargers. And then the Patriots hold the Dolphins. The Dolphins. We know how bad Miami is in cold weather, and we know how good Drake May has been this season. So I'm going to pick both Denver and New England to win both of their games, and I would have to dig a little bit deeper into the NFL standings to be able to tell you who comes out on top in a tiebreaker.
One thing, though, it's going to be interesting is the Patriots, even though they are playing the lowly Miami Dolphins, could be without Stephon Diggs, who managed to get a felony arrest for strangling somebody earlier this week.
That's what social media was all on about this morning. Okay.
We don't know that he's guilty, but
it's Stephon Diggs. He's guilty.
If this is one of these. Yeah, it's like this is one of the stupidest things somebody could do. His team's fighting for a championship, and if he's guilty, he has gotten out and acted like a fool on the eve of them, possibly locking up home field throughout the playoffs, and making a deep playoff run. This could cost them a championship. I mean, if he's guilty, that is not just stupid. That is monumentally stupid.
There's a reason why nobody wanted to sign Diggs as a free agent, and why I think the Patriots took a flyer on him, and up to this point, he had proved that to be a good bet. But yeah, I mean, not giving Drake May his number one receiver, if we're talking about potentially going on the road for an AFC championship, and right now that road does go through Denver. Denver does hold the tiebreak over New England based on best win percentage in common games, according to ESPN. So if both of those teams win, as I predicted, then Denver gets the number one seed. If both of those teams were to happen to lose and Jacksonville wins, then Jacksonville would get the number one seed. And wouldn't that be extraordinary?
Yes. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's my Super Bowl sleeper out of the AFC is Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's talking about how good they've been.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that Sunday night game, the final game, the toilet bowl for the
division champions.
Yeah, well, the tarnished brass trophy that is the AFC North, which used to be the strongest division in football and now is rapidly becoming an absolute embarrassment. I'm going with Baltimore. There's no way I'm betting a title on the corpse of Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Yeah, you better run Derrick. Yeah, you run Derrick Henry like they did last week.
Yep.
Because did people forget Derrick Henry is the running back that gets stronger the more you feed him?
Yeah,
he is a diesel.
Yeah, 50 touches this year. I mean, you just go out there and you tell Snoop Hundley, hey, just hand the ball to Derrick. Okay, well, what about the passing game? There is no passing game. Just hand the ball to Derrick.
Mm-hmm. This is absolutely ridiculous, and I can't do the Steelers. I just can't. You cannot convince me this is a good football team. No. They let Justin Fields go buck wild on them in the first month of the year. Justin Fields and the Jets. Salute. No. Give me Baltimore by 3 tuds.
Oh, 3. No, I think it's going to be a rock fight. I think it's going to be like I think it's going to end up being like a 23-20 win or something like that. But no, I just there's no way I'm putting my faith in Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I don't know how they've won 9 games with him. He looks so bad. He's old and slow. And just, I mean, these passes that he throws, they're just, 6-yard bubble screens and quick slants, and it's like, hey, can you get us across the sticks on a 3rd and 20? And it's like, I wouldn't count on it. It's just
because
sad.
the BS is real with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They use necromancy to win these games. It is otherworldly how they win football games. The high-end talent backdoors their way into wins they do not deserve. That is a 6-win team disguised as a 9-win team.
Well,
no.
we'll definitely see it on Sunday night, but everything in me tells me that Baltimore is going to be able to win that game.
It's going to be interesting, and guys, it's been a heck of a year.
I mean, it's not been the year that I hoped for by any stretch of the imagination. The Blues got, looking back, the Blues got bounced from the playoffs. The St. Louis Cardinals descended into absolute irrelevance, and what's even worse, apathy from the fans in St. Louis. And I certainly, I hope that Chaim Bloom's New Year's resolution is to bring this team back into relevance, although I'm afraid that what he's doing is a total rebuild, and so what we're going to see is a lot of kids out there on the field and not a whole lot of wins. And, of course, I don't know at the time of recording which of our clips from the past year that you've played, but, if you saw my completely Kool-Aid inspired prediction about how good the Vikings were going to be, I think everyone in purple was drinking the McCarthy Kool-Aid, thinking that he was going to somehow transcend what happens to every first-year quarterback is that it takes about 8 games or so to get adjusted to the speed of the game. It doesn't matter how much you try to simulate it or how much you try to expect that. So, it's definitely not the Vikings season that we thought we were going to get or that we hoped for. But, as we've sort of the theme that we've been talking about with our local teams, you get to a point where you think you're going to get all the way, and then you're disappointed with a loss. We saw that this year with a couple of local football teams, Jackson and Dexter, falling short in the state semifinals. And so, there's always hope for the future out of the losses for this year. So, the one thing that we can always say as sports fans is just wait till next year. Well, next year, by the time all of you are listening to this, it is next year. It is 2026, and hope springs eternal.
It does, and it's been a good year for us here on the podcast. Thank you for listening to us. There's been more listening to us of late. Very excited about that. We're hoping to build on that in 2026. Looking forward to you coming on the ride with us. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders. Skol Vikings.
And this is Kyle Roberts. Whose house? Rams' house.
And welcome to 2026 here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.